Imagine waking up one day and realizing that your entire life is about to change. That every plan, every dream, every ordinary moment you took for granted is now hanging by a thread. That's exactly what happened to Michael. One day he was just another husband, father, and friend, living life like the rest of us. The next, he was a patient, statistic. Another name on a doctor's chart with a terrifying diagnosis: cancer. At that moment, time stopped. His mind raced with questions that had no answers. Will I survive? How will I tell my family? Am I ready to fight this battle? Michael had a choice: surrender to the fear or fight with everything he had. But the truth is, no one is ever truly ready for a war like this. This is the story of a man who faced death, found life in the process. But let me be clear, this isn't just a story about illness. It's a story about resilience, about pain, about hope when all seems lost. It's about the darkest nights and the brightest dawns. About the people who stood beside him and those who didn't. About the moments that broke him and the ones that built him back up. And in the end, it's a story about what truly matters when you come face to face with your own mortality. So let me ask you, what would you do if you were in Michael's place? If life as you knew it was slipping away, would you fight? Would you find purpose in the pain? Or would you let fear take over? This is Michael's journey, and it just might change the way you see your own life. The unexpected blow of life can change in an instant. One day you're laughing, making plans for the future, and the next, you receive news that shatters everything you know. That's exactly what happened to Michael. A routine checkup, a strange look from the doctor, and then the dreaded words: "We need to talk about your results." At that moment, the world around him seemed to go silent. His heart raced, his palms were sweaty, and a flood of questions came with no answers. The diagnosis was clear and relentless: cancer. What was he supposed to do now? How do you find strength when everything seems to be falling apart? The days that followed were a blur of technical information, tests, and cold statistics. The chances are good, the doctor said. But how could he believe that when the word cancer echoed like a death sentence? The fall. The physical and emotional impact the first few days were a whirlwind of emotions. Fear, despair, denial. His family tried to be strong, but their eyes said more than their words. Every test, every consultation felt like another punch to the gut. Chemotherapy began, bringing with it cruel side effects: extreme fatigue, nausea, hair loss. But the worst part wasn't physical, it was the fear. The fear of not seeing his children's next birthday. The fear of being forgotten. The fear of becoming just a memory to those he loved. Each day was a cycle of hope and disappointment. One night, alone in his room, Michael looked into the mirror. The reflection staring back was of a stranger. Someone without the vitality he once had. Is this still me? He wondered. Dark thoughts crept into his mind. What if he gave up? What if he just accepted his fate? And then came a decisive moment, the turning point. Finding reasons to fight. A conversation with a stranger in the clinic's waiting room changed everything. An elderly man, also battling cancer, looked Michael in the eyes and said, "This does not define you. You decide what comes next." Those words cut deep. The cancer might be in his body, but it didn't have to take over his soul. That same night, Michael opened a notebook and wrote a list of reasons to fight. Every name, every dream, every promise. That was what mattered. He decided to change his approach. He started joining support groups, reading stories of survival, and most importantly, choosing hope over fear.
Yes.
The rise, the road to recovery, the battle was still brutal, but now there was something different, an internal fire. Each day became a small victory. His body was weak, but his spirit was stronger than ever. He changed his diet, introduced light physical activities, and, above all, started seeing beauty in the little things. Morning coffee with his family, the warmth of the sun on his skin, the sound of his friends' laughter. His family and friends became pillars of support. Small gestures, like a thoughtfully prepared cup of coffee or an encouraging message, made all the difference. And little by little, the test results started to show signs of improvement. Hope was beginning to take shape. The resolution. A life redefined after months of fighting, the long-awaited news arrived. Remission. The tears that fell were no longer of fear, but of relief, gratitude, and an internal rebirth. But this journey was indeed just about beating a disease. It was about being reborn as a new person. Today, Michael is not just a survivor. He is someone who truly lives. He values every moment, has learned to say "I love you" without hesitation, and has found a new meaning in life. And to you who are listening to this story, remember, pain may be inevitable, but how we respond to it is what defines us. What will you do with the difficult moments? How will you choose to move forward? The answer to that question could change everything. The echoes of survival. Michael had won the battle. The doctors had said the word he never thought he would hear: remission. But what happens after you survive? What comes next when you fought for your life and won? The truth is, survival isn't just about defeating cancer, it's about learning to live again. Even though the physical war was over, the mental and emotional scars remained. Every ache, every cough, every moment of exhaustion sent a chill down his spine. Is it back? You would wonder. A thought that never truly left him. But he wasn't alone. His family, friends, and newfound cancer community were there, ready to help him navigate this new chapter. The weight of survival. The emotional toll. Michael thought that after remission, everything would go back to normal. He would wake up one day, full of energy, and resume the life he once had. But the truth was, normal didn't exist anymore. There were days of joy seeing his children laugh, holding his wife's hand, feeling the sun warm his skin. But there were also days of doubt. He struggled with guilt. Why had he survived while so many others in the hospital had not? Why did he get to go home while some families left empty-handed? Survivor's guilt weighed on him like an anchor, pulling him into moments of silence, deep thought, and even tears in the quiet of the night. His mind whispered questions he couldn't answer. Finding purpose. A new mission one evening. As he sat on the porch staring at the stars, his phone rang. It was a man from his cancer support group. A new patient just starting treatment. "Michael, I don't know if I can do this," the man said, his voice trembling. Michael took a deep breath. "Neither did I, but you don't have to do it alone." That night, something clicked inside him. He had survived for a reason. Maybe that reason was to help others walk the same path he had. Michael started volunteering at the hospital where he had been treated. He visited patients, shared his story, listened to theirs, and reminded them that hope was not a myth. He became a mentor to those who needed someone who truly understood what they were going through. And in doing so, he began to heal in a new way. Rebuilding the body, overcoming the physical challenges. Cancer had taken a toll on Michael's body. His muscles were weak, his energy levels unpredictable, and his immune system fragile. But he wasn't ready to accept those limitations. With the help of a physical therapist, he started small. Few steps turned into short walks. Short walks turned into light jogs. Soon, he was running again, feeling the wind on his face, his heart pounding not from fear, but from strength. He changed his diet, focusing on foods that nourished him. He meditated, learning to calm the racing thoughts that had once consumed him. And little by little, his body felt like his again. A second chance at life. Redefining happiness. Michael realized something powerful. Cancer had taken so much, but it had also given him something unexpected, a new appreciation for life. He no longer postponed things, took that trip he always talked about. He spent more time with his children, laughing until their stomachs hurt. He held his wife closer, telling her every day how much she meant to him. He started writing about his journey, turning pain into words that could reach others who were lost in the darkness he once knew so well. Michael wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living. The message to others. Hope beyond cancer for those still in the battle. For those who just heard the words "you have cancer," Michael had something to say. You are stronger than you think. There will be days when you want to give up. Don't. There will be moments of fear so strong it feels like it will consume you. Keep going. There will be times you wonder if life will ever feel normal again. It won't, not in the way you remember. But it will be beautiful in a new way. Cancer had changed him, but not in the way he once feared. It had given him a second chance, a new purpose, in a deep gratitude for every breath he took. As he stood in front of a room full of patients, sharing his story, he looked at the faces of those still fighting. He saw himself in their eyes. And he knew this was just the beginning of a new kind of journey. Closing thoughts? What will you do with your second chance? Michael's story is not just about surviving cancer. It's about what comes after. It's about learning to live again, finding purpose in pain, and embracing every moment with gratitude. For those listening, ask yourself, if you were given a second chance at life, how would you live it? Because every day, every sunrise, every laugh, and every hug is a gift. And the best way to honor survival is to truly live. The story that stays time passed. Seasons changed. Michael's hair had grown back, his strength returned, and his calendar, once filled with doctor's appointments, was now filled with life. But something had shifted inside him forever. This is the final chapter of Michael's journey, not of survival, but of transformation. A man who once feared death now teaches others how to live. A voice that trembled in the face of uncertainty now speaks with quiet strength. And in this conclusion, we discover what it truly means to face illness and to rise beyond it. The quiet aftermath. When the world moves on after the storm comes silence, when the treatment ends and the celebration fades, people around you return to their routines. But survivors live with echo scars that no one else can see. Michael found this silence difficult. Wasn't the same man he was before, and he didn't want to be. But how do you live in a world that expects you to act like nothing happened? He learned that healing isn't just physical. It's learning to trust your body again. It's forgiving yourself for the fear, the anger, the sadness. It's learning to be present, not just alive. The wisdom of suffering. What illness teaches us one afternoon. Speaking at a small community center, Michael shared something that stunned the room. Cancer didn't take everything from me. In some ways, it gave me back more than I ever had. People leaned in, curious. It gave me truth, stripped away all the noise, and left only what matters. I know what a real smile looks like. I know what love feels like when it's tested. I know how valuable time is. I know how fragile we all are. From pain, Michael had learned depth. From fear, he had learned empathy. And from loss, he had found purpose.
It's
The gift of perspective, what we often forget. Before cancer, Michael was like many of us. Always rushing, always planning, rarely stopping to just exist. The diagnosis forced him to pause, and in that stillness, he saw life differently. He spoke often of this clarity. We wait for big moments to change, wait for the perfect time to say I love you, to call an old friend, to forgive, to rest. But life is in the small things, in the way your dog greets you at the door, in the silence of sunrise, in the hand you hold during a hard moment. His words were gentle, but they cut deep. We waste so much time waiting, and illness reminds us we don't have time to waste. It's a shared battle, how we can all fight better. Michael's journey wasn't a solo act. He had his wife, his children, friends, nurses, support groups, and now he wanted to share how we can all do better when facing illness, ours or someone else's, he said. Don't ask what can I do? Show up. Bring food, sit in silence, watch a movie, hold their hand. You don't need magic words, you just need to stay. He urged doctors to listen more, friends to check in even when it's awkward, families to allow space for both strength and breakdowns. In illness, we don't need perfect people. We need present people. Michael's final lesson. The legacy of living well. Michael's health was stable. He had found a rhythm again. But more importantly, he had found a message he felt compelled to pass on. He began visiting schools, churches, and online communities, not just to talk about cancer, but to talk about life. He spoke of fear with tenderness, of hope with honesty, of death with peace. We're all going to die, he said once, his voice unwavering. But not all of us truly live. Don't wait for a diagnosis to change that. He challenged his listeners to live deliberately, to apologize when pride gets in the way, to listen more than they speak, to laugh even when it hurts, to cherish the people who stand beside them. Because in the end, the measure of a life isn't in its length, but in its depth. Closing reflections. What will your legacy be? Michael's story reminds us that tragedy can be a teacher, that illness can awaken us to what matters most, and that love, in all its quiet and loud forms, is our greatest medicine. So now we ask you, what would you change if you knew time was limited? Who would you become if you stopped waiting and started living? Michael didn't just beat cancer, became someone more alive because of it. You can too. Start now. Live well. Love deeply. Let that be your legacy.